Hello. It says I'm live, so here we go. Welcome back. I'm assuming that if you're here that you probably watched the video just now and want to thank you for watching, if that is the case. If you didn't watch just now, I want to put a link in the chat text on the side here so you can go watch it, because this is one you probably don't want to miss. It turned out really well and represents a lot of work to make it happen. It was a 4-day trip to Ely in eastern Nevada, which was a really good trip. It's a brutal trip from California to drive all the way out there, especially from the west coast of California. And let me just welcome Nate and Sarge and Touch, Aaron, everybody. Sorry, guys. That's an interesting name. I don't know if I should be worried or not when I see the name. Sorry, guys. Because when I see that, I expect something really bad to be typed afterwards, like, sorry, guys, you all suck, or something like that. So, yeah. So I'm not tired anymore from the trip. Hi, Shane and Baltimore and Touch of the Brush. I think I already mentioned hello to Touch of the Brush. And hey, Warbonnet. So, yeah, so I wanted to start a live stream because, well, a couple things. One, it's practically the last day of the year. And so we can talk about 2018 if you want. But also because the premiere of the Steam special about the Nevada Northern just came out and we watched it together. So, and like I said before, that's one show that I'm really proud of. It turned out really well. Hey, Trevor. Anyway, let me expand the chat here so that I can see more. I can see better. Shoot, if I do this right, I might not even need my glasses on. So yeah, I think that the video turned out really well. I think it might be the best one that's been done so far on the channel. And it's quite possible that it might be the last one that gets done, just because I'm kind of out of steam trains to film right now. I mean, without traveling, even this was traveling hundreds of miles each way to get to go do this Nevada Northern. So there are some steam operations more local to me that could work, but I don't, really what it is the tremendous amount of work. And just for example, that video that we just watched on the other page there, I'll put a link in put a link here. There's, it took 4 days to go capture the footage that I used of mine, because we drove all the way to Ely from California, from San Jose, in 1 day. Stayed for, well, we got there on a Thursday. We stayed Friday and Saturday and part of Sunday and came back. So there's 4 days right there. And then it was more than a full-time week of editing just to do the editing part. And then there was a lot of research that also took place. And one really cool thing, and I think I might have talked about this on the podcast in September, because that would be after we got back from Ely. But one of the really cool things was how helpful and welcoming and hospitable everybody there at the Nevada Northern was. That was really cool. And I don't know if they're watching or maybe they'll see this later, but I just want to thank everybody from that organization, because they made the trip and the visit even better. So, hello, Lactrix. Oh, from Stockholm. I did not know that. There are a lot of international viewers on this channel. Just a minute ago when we were watching the live webcast, I think someone chimed in from Brazil. There's several that I know for sure are from Germany. I know some are down under. There's a lot of UK viewers. It's really neat to have a sort of an international audience. And I think that one of the neat things when you really think about it, about the internet, is that it can be a vehicle to bring people together from all over the world, because we will find out that we're not as different as we all think we might be. It's one of the neat things about traveling and about corresponding with people from other places, is that you'll find that people in other countries think of the same things that you think about and have dreams just like you and are not so different and are not to be, feared or worried about generally. Not like what some people would want us to do. So the boundless was changed because, oh, that's odd. Oh, I see what you're saying. That's interesting, sorry, because if somebody is right, Sarge? I would think boundless or sorry. If somebody is bullying you, you're not the one who needs to apologize. So I have seen Sierra number 3. As a matter of fact, there is a Steam special very much like the one you just watched that came out that features the Sierra number 3. That was the annual Steam special from 2016. So if you go look for that on the channel, whenever you're done here, you'll find it. So I agree with that, Train Guy. It would be very easy for people to get along if they just talk, right? That really does matter. It's one of the things that I've heard from, one of the few things I've agreed with politicians who say that in order to get along, you have to talk to your enemies or something like that. I guess it depends who the enemy is and what they're doing, whether or not you want to talk to them, but you probably wouldn't have enemies if you talk to people. So yes, sorry guys, they did in fact do that back in September, and I was in that area doing a layout tour of Steve Hayes's Western Pacific layout that weekend, and I got to see it dressed up, and it was a really cool event. Now, I did not get to attend the entire event because I was busy all day Saturday, and by the time Sunday rolled around, we were tired and just wanted to get home. But it was a cool event. And my friends Gary and Hunter, who were here with me last, or actually it wasn't the last time, but they were here with me on a recent live webcast. They were up there too, doing their own filming and taking photos and stuff. So Aloha Milton says, what about an excuse to visit Australia? Now that would be really cool. Shane Singleton says, social media adds an anonymity, which people, yeah, that's true. But we have a choice to ignore people who do that, though, right, Shane? So, and you know who they are, and you know what they're doing. You can just ignore them. Oh, isn't that the truth, Train Guy? So, I will mention there's someone on here named Noel who keeps trying to spam people to go look at his channel. Please don't do that. It's not. It gets filtered out. I see it, but nobody else sees it. This is not a place to spam or promote your own stuff. Now, if I do a show like that, then everybody's welcome to come on and try to publicize their channel or whatever. But this is really what I wanted to do here, was answer questions about the annual Steam special that we just watched on the other page that you were doing the same thing, and it didn't work there either. So now, at some point, maybe during this live webcast, I'll do a little shout out thing where people can post their own channels, because I do believe in spreading the word, and I do want other people to be able to share their work and their stuff, but just not during a time when it's not specifically for that. So want to see here. Let's see. I'm going to read some of these comments and see if there's something I can answer about. Shame. Any thoughts about doing the 4014 premiere? I'll talk about that in a minute, Paul. Sometimes blah, blah. That's true, Shane. They do make it hard to ignore, but that's our choice, though. And someone's asking about going to the Golden Spike event. That's Electrics. Okay, Noel, thanks. I mean, just stick around, though, because maybe I'll open up later and people can promote their channels on here. Thanks, Jane. I appreciate that. And I've tried to make it a place where oh, that's an interesting idea, Miguel. Okay, there's a whole bunch of comments that I want to address here. I'm going to talk first about the channel, then I'm going to talk about 4014 and the Golden Spike thing that's supposed to be happening in a few months here. First off, what I'm trying to do with this channel is produce videos that look and sound good so that you can see everything and hear everything, and try to keep it interesting that way. I'm trying to promote rail fanning as a hobby and model railroading as a hobby, because I think both of them have some very good aspects that can be beneficial to people. You know, whether it be in particular in modeling, you can learn how to do woodwork and electronics and electrical and design and just their planning. There's just all kinds of really sort of seems like they're kind of getting lost in the future. Kind of a strange way to put it, but I think you'll understand what I mean, because people don't do stuff like that anymore. People are on their computer or playing games on their phone or whatever, and they never put a pencil to paper to plan something. You know, I guess you can do it with computer-aided design, but there is something different about working with your hands. And this is actual science, what I'm about to tell you, which is when you do stuff, whatever it is, okay, so say you did a design on a computer and you're really working with the screen and with one of these, right, with a mouse. That develops a different part of your brain than if you do it on paper with pencil. It's true. If you look it up, it has to do with cognitive development. That's my education. It's in psychology, so I probably sound a little geeky talking about this stuff. But there are certain areas of your brain, and like, for example, I'm really bad with remembering names. If you tell me your name, I could just as well forget it in 5 minutes and then be just totally at a loss. So I've developed a way that works for me to try to remember people's names, which is if somebody tells me his name or her name, say it's Chris, for example. Well, there's a lot of different ways to spell Chris. So I will ask that person, oh, is it Chris with a CH or with a K? Now they'll tell me, and now I have two ways to remember that person's name. I can remember, oh, it's Chris, or I can remember it's spelled with a CH. It uses a different part of the brain. So just as an example, so what I'm trying to bring this around to is that model railroading, and the reason I like to promote it is that it helps the development of a lot of different places in your brain, or the use of a lot of different places in your brain. Because if you don't use stuff, it does atrophy. And I'm pretty sure that goes, people say that too, that when you're using your muscles or not, or they say that your brain is a muscle. That's what I was going to say, and to use it. So anyway, so that's, yeah. See, Shane knows what I'm talking about. And there's a lot of different little tricks like that you can develop to help your memory or to help recall and that kind of thing. So I want to mention real quick about the 4014 and the 150th anniversary. I do have plans to go to Utah for that. I believe it's in May this year, coming up 2019. And the only thing is I don't have very specific plans yet. I've been invited by probably half a dozen different friends who want to go. And I keep thinking this is for the people who may be watching who have invited me or had talked about, or maybe had some tentative plans to do this, but I would really find it hilarious and fun to get all of the people into the same vehicle and make it an epic trip, like a big chasing trains thing or something like that. Because everybody who's invited me is hilarious to be around, and I really enjoy doing things together. So now, that being said, now this is giving me some ideas, because I went to Promontory a couple of months ago with Mike and Gary, and right, someone saying that in a bus, right? Exactly. Oh, and by the way, hey, Nice Hands, just wanted to say hi. I saw you pipe in here. And also Unknown Soldier, one of my favorite longtime viewers. Hello and welcome. What I was thinking about that whole chasing trains thing was, I'm sort of thinking out loud here, is I went to Promontory with Mike and Gary, and of course my top secret agent here back in October, and got some really nice footage of the historic replicas that they have out at Promontory, the historic site there. And I suppose that maybe I could put together a Steam special with those, or with that footage, in addition to whatever we end up recording on, what do you call it? On a trip in May, right? I don't know. I don't usually make plans long before the Steam special happens. I usually start figuring out what I'm going to do sometime a few months into the year, maybe 6 or 8 months into the year. And as I'm thinking back at, oh, gee, what have I filmed this year that I can make a special about? In the case of the most recent one, as soon as I made the plans to go on the trip to Eastern Nevada, I knew that was going to be the annual Steam special, because I knew what was out there, and I had seen enough video footage from my friend Mike Armstrong, and also from Hunter Lose, which, by the way, I want to thank both of those guys for the additional footage that they provided for the Steam special. The shots from the freight train out on what they call the High Line, or the Steptoe Valley line, were all from Mike Armstrong, from a trip that he took out there, I think in 2015. And then all of the winter scenes were from Hunter Lose. I think he was also out there in 2015. So very big thanks to both of you guys. Really appreciate the contributions. I think that it made the program even better by having those historic, semi-historic shots from a few years ago. But the point is that they were different from the shots I was able to take, because when I was there, they only ran locomotive number 40, which is that 10-wheeler. It's a very nice locomotive, but it's also only one locomotive. And they only ran passenger trains. Now, it just so happened that one of those passenger trains consisted of the Steptoe Valley Flyer Consist, which is the RPO and that first class coach, which is a really, really cool event. If you can go, they run it a few times a year. Those are some very historic pieces of equipment, and they're in perfect condition. I was lucky when they were preparing the train, preparing those cars for the run that afternoon. Our friend Eric Mensis was there sweeping up and making sure that the cars were presentable for the guests that day. And as he was working, he let us come in and look at it. Look at both of the cars, actually. That's how I got those nice photographs inside the first class car. I also took some photographs of the RPO and learned some stuff about RPOs that I didn't know at the time, but I do now. And it was really cool. That's what I mean about the people there being super hospitable and super nice. Eric was one of those. It was funny too. Eric was kind of playing it cool the whole time. I didn't know that he knew about the channel, knew who I was, knew who we were there, but he didn't say anything until the end of the second day. I think I told this story. Yeah, I told this story on a podcast about how Eric was walking toward a building as I was walking back toward the depot and said, "Hey, I have the keys to this other building that no one ever gets to go in." And then we went into it's an electrical shed, basically, or an electrical building. And it was really neat because nobody does go in there. And the calendar on the wall, which you saw in the Steam special, if you didn't watch the Steam special, I'm going to put a link right now to go so you can go look at it. There you go. The link is in the chat, okay? But in that Steam special, you saw the calendar on the wall. It was the 1983 calendar, still set to June. And if you look on the calendar, this is something that I thought was really cool. And it gives you an idea of how much of a time capsule this place is. It's just a place stopped in time. If you look at the calendar on this, pause it when it comes up on the screen, you'll notice June 1st through the 16th all have writing on them. It says shop, 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 shop. And then on the 16th, there's nothing else after that. That's because on the 15th, everybody was laid off. So no one has really looked at that calendar with an intent to plan anything since 1983. And on the desk in that same room, there's an ashtray with put out cigarettes, extinguished cigarettes. Probably those haven't been touched since 1983 either. Hopefully the person who put them out didn't die from lung cancer or anything yet. But I think of stuff like that. But that's the kind of preservation that is all around this place. So, and I really recommend for people to go to Ely. It's a really cool place. And if you just start talking to the people there, they'll be very helpful and informative and welcoming. It's quite cool. But what I was going to say is that Eric Mensis, who led us into the RPO and the first class coach, led us into that electrical building to look as well. And you may recall this story if you've been watching the podcasts, but we came out of that building and there was a state trooper that pulled up, and I thought we were going to be in trouble, but he came over and wanted to meet us and to shake my hand. "Hey, I've been watching your podcast for years," or something like that. And his name also was Eric. But it was at that point in time when I found out that all of these people knew who we were. And I say we because Mike Ninneman was with me at that point in time as we were looking at the grounds and stuff like that. But it was really funny because they knew who we were, but didn't really say anything, which I guess, I don't know. I mean, I think if I were to see somebody that I watch on YouTube or anything else, I would probably just tell them, it's like, "Oh, hey, I really enjoy your show," or "I really enjoy your blog or your work," or whatever it is. I would just tell them up front, like, "Hey, that's really cool. And I'm glad to meet you." But they didn't, they're just like, I don't know, maybe they were waiting to see, because sometimes when you meet people for the first time that you've seen on social media or whatever, you might just be like, "I'm going to see if he's a dick first and then decide if I'm going to tell him I like his work." So I'll just call that the dick test. And apparently we passed the dick test. Mike and I both did, because they eventually told us that they've been watching. But yeah, it was really cool. And like I said, the people were super nice. And one of the really neat things, I did contact Mark Bassett, who also was in the program. He was the guy with the beard and the hat talking about the current day operations. He also provided all the historic vintage photos for the program. So in case you ever watch this, Mark, I want to thank you for that. I know I've thanked you on the phone and with email, but I'm thanking you on video too now, make it official. But when we were getting ready to leave one of the days, I think it might have been Saturday afternoon, because he and I had talked a fair amount that day. I was trying not to be because he's busy, right? Everybody there is busy trying to get stuff ready or do their work. But there were times when he was just standing there and I kind of conversed with him a little bit. And so I told him what I was doing. And like I said, I had contacted him ahead of time just to let him know what my purpose was there. And so he understood what was going on and knew who I was and what I was doing. And I asked him at some point, since I'm doing this sort of historic documentary thing or historical documentary thing, which is the video that we just watched, if it would be possible to access their archives for vintage photos, or just, it was something like that. Or do you have any vintage photos that I can use in the program? Because I knew for sure that I was going to need some of that material from the mine, for example, right? All those steam shovels and all that. And I knew that I wanted some photos of vintage Ely, the ore trains, all that stuff. And I didn't have any of that. And to be honest, it's really hard to find photos that are available for use on the internet. And I'd rather have something that's used with permission than to take something and then just say, oh, it was fair use for an educational video, which, I mean, you can do that, but it's better to have permission from the photographer, from whoever owns the collection, whatever that it belongs to, just as a matter of sort of legal matters. And anyway, so I told him something to the effect of, do you have any of that? And we were standing in the general store, or we were standing in his office. Oh, that's what it was. I went up to say goodbye to him, and we were sitting in the office there, or standing in the office. And he just said, here, follow me. So we went downstairs into the general store there, and he took a copy of the book that he wrote about the railroad. It's an Arcadia Press book. I wish I had it. I don't think I have it in my office right now, but it's around here somewhere. And he says, here's a copy of my book. And he autographed it. And he says, look in the book. And if you see any pictures in the book that will be useful in the program, just send me a list later, and I'll send you the electronic version of those pictures, because I have permission for all of those pictures, or something like that. And I was really blown away, because that was a very generous offer, and I took him up on it. So like I said, I think all of the historic photos in the documentary, the video that we just watched, were from him, from his book. And his book is also, I should mention this, is also worth getting. I'm pretty sure it's still available. And it's just the Nevada Northern Railroad, I think, is the title. And Arcadia Press, if you're not familiar with them, those are the small books. They're about, I don't know, 6 or 7 inches by about 8 or 9 inches, like that. And they all have a sepia tone cover and the same sort of herald on the front. If you've seen one, you'll recognize the look. And I'm sure you could find it on Amazon. I haven't looked for it, but I'm sure it's there. And if you can't get it there, I'm sure you can get it on the Nevada Northern website, because they have an online store. And they have a lot of really nice stuff in their general store. As a matter of fact, I just gave my top secret coffee connoisseur for Christmas the Dirt the Shop Cat, Dirt the Shop Cat mug, coffee mug. That's the kitty that lives in their engine house there, Dirt. And I also gave her a bag of Dirt Shop Cat coffee, which, as a matter of fact, I just had some this morning. It's good coffee, and it's fair trade coffee. So that was the one present that Top Secret Coffee Connoisseur got a couple days ago for Christmas. By the way, happy holidays, whatever you celebrate, and Happy New Year coming up soon. Aloha Milton knows what I'm talking about, Arcadia SP in California. So it's the same publisher, Milton, that did that. And the cover looks just like that, just with a different picture and a different title. Great book. Just about all the historical information I got. The coffee does not taste like dirt, Sarge. Dirt is the name of the cat, and the coffee is endorsed by the cat, okay? Or something like that. It is good coffee, though. Take that as coming from someone who enjoys my coffee. I have a shocking announcement, and I don't know how feasible this is, but I have plans, sort of tentative plans, because we got a bunch of coffee for Christmas. But my thought is, once we've gone through the coffee. Oh, Shane says you can get the Nevada Northern book on Amazon. Highly recommended book. So it has a lot of really great pictures and tells the story of not only the history, but it also talks about the current day and what their mission is there. So definitely worth reading, worth having, worth getting. And the author is a super cool guy. I guess it was co-authored with his wife, so I shouldn't forget that part. But the author that I met, that I know, is a super cool guy and was very generous with his time and his knowledge and his information, as I mentioned. Now back to my shocking announcement. I'm thinking about not drinking coffee anymore, right? But we're going to go through what we have first. Now, I was thinking it's kind of funny to think of it this way, that kind of like the guy that's going to quit smoking, but he just bought a pack, so he's going to finish the ones he has first. Coffee is not as bad as for you as smoking, I'm sure. But oh, Shane is a Princess Bride fan apparently too. Inconceivable. You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means. Oh, I could probably recite the whole movie almost by memory. Anyway, so I'm thinking about quitting drinking coffee. Just because I got to do some more reading first, because I've read that coffee is really bad for you, but I've read also that drinking a cup of coffee is actually really good for you. And as a matter of fact, there was a guy who used to be on the radio locally to me. Actually, he had a nationally syndicated show. I don't know what happened to it or what happened to him for that matter, but his name was Dr. Dean Adele. And Dr. Dean Adele used to say that drinking a cup of coffee was good for you. Now, and he's a doctor, right? So he might know that kind of stuff, but he's also a coffee addict. So he might want to, or he might be trying to justify his own addiction. I don't know when he said that, but I thought that was pretty shocking announcement that I might not be drinking coffee anymore. I'll have to think of some other new addiction, right? Sarge is suggesting hot chocolate. That might work. But one of the things with coffee that I find sort of hard to stomach, no pun intended, but actually accurately, is that it's pretty hard on your stomach. And I end up sometimes with heartburn from it. And that sucks. And I don't want to do that. So dealing with the decision, I'll figure it out. One thing's for sure is that if I didn't like coffee so much when I went to Motel 6 the first time, well, I mean, it wasn't the first time I'd been to one, but the first time in my adult life when I wanted coffee that morning in the first ever episode of Chasing Trains, when Motel 6 said they would have coffee in their office, and I woke up early to go get some, and nobody was in the office, so I couldn't get it. That's where I picked up it's a false reputation, but I'll claim it anyway, as being a coffee addict. If I weren't already enjoying my coffee at that time, I'd like Motel 6 a lot better right now, even though it wasn't the best place to stay. Okay, so Milton is suggesting tea. I've thought about that. Yeah. I'll figure it out on my own, and knowing me, I'll probably Shane, I'll probably make a big announcement on the podcast sometime. Speaking of podcasts, the podcast is coming up a week from today, which means I have podcast week starting tomorrow, well, or today really. But hey, SMT, I thought it was going to be SMT Multimedia, but that's okay. Welcome. In case anybody is just showing up right now, I came on live because we just watched the video that popped up in your chat window just now. For you, it's probably over here someplace, because I think the screen on my computer is reversed from what you see. But the annual Steam special came out today, and that's a link to it. please watch it when you have a chance. It's one that I think I'm most proud of. This one, and I think the Sierra from 2016 also was very good. Those are my two favorites. Hi, Larry. I'm very happy to see you, and Happy New Year to you too. So I was about to mention about podcast week. So the first podcast of the year is particularly daunting. And the reason for that is, well, every podcast is kind of daunting because I have to put together this usually 35 minutes to an hour long program in just a week. And for those of you who do editing like I do, you'll realize it's a lot of work. It's very time consuming to put together a program like that, because not only do you have to do the full recording of the talking, but I also actually type out an entire script for the podcast so that I don't forget to mention stuff. Because that's one thing I will always forget to mention things. Like on this live webcast, I keep meaning to talk about stuff, but then I get sidetracked by other stuff. Example, I was going to talk about 4014 and talk about someone asked a question about going to the 150th anniversary, and I didn't finish telling you what my plans are for that. I just said that I was thinking about doing a big Chasing Trains, and then I got sidetracked. So that's why I write the entire script for the podcast. So in addition to that, because right now I'm on the topic of things being daunting for the podcast, in addition to the entire script and all that, I have to examine all the numbers from this year, 2018, and come up with some kind of a plan for programs to focus on next year. Because every year since last year, toward the end of the year, I start looking at how videos have performed, which ones got watched more, which ones didn't get watched as much, which ones have more engagement, comments and that kind of thing, likes, dislikes, whatever. I take all that stuff into account, and then I try to develop a plan for the coming year so that I can give people what it seems like they want. Now, I could do an impromptu poll and ask the 21 or 22 people who are viewing right now, or the thousands of viewers that will happen over the next week or so, what you want to see. But there are almost 24,000 subscribers to the channel, and talking to 100 people is not a very representative sample. So I have to look at numbers to make those decisions. Now, I'm not saying that polls don't count, because they do. Because frankly, the people who are engaged enough to watch live, like you're doing now, or to watch this later, but to watch like that and to place a comment, are really the people that I want to make happy anyway, because those are the views that I value the most. I think and it might be kind of weird to think this way, but I feel like we've developed a relationship, over the time. What I put out here is me. So you guys have a very good idea of what I'm like and what I'm about. So at least from my side, you know what you're getting now. So I value that and value your feedback, but I definitely need to look at numbers as well, because there are a lot of viewers who don't take the time to mention stuff. And, well, you get what I'm saying, right? Miguel Chavez said he liked the special about the 3751. Yes, I think that 3751 special might have been the very first one ever. And let me talk about that real quick. Thanks, Train Man, and Happy New Year to you too. And I feel like I know who Train Man 3985 is, and I'm just not remembering. It would be nice if people had their real names on here so I'd remember. Is that? I don't remember. Well, maybe you'll tell me in here. What was I saying? Oh, I was going to talk real quick about the annual Steam specials, just since we're on that topic, because we just finished watching an annual Steam special about a half hour ago, 45 minutes ago, before I came on live. And I'll put a link in the chat window again here. If you're watching this later, sometime after Saturday morning at 10:15 Pacific time, look in the chat window for a link. You can see the Steam special in case you missed it. I think it might be the best one I've done so far. I want to talk about the annual Steam special. So just real quick, in case you don't know this, the annual Steam special came about because a friend of mine, Mike Armstrong, you probably know him because you're probably subscribed to his channel on YouTube that has, it's getting close right now to 400,000 subscribers. I think it is the single biggest and the fastest growing train related channel on YouTube. It's amazing what this guy has done. And he's a very, very good videographer. And he works very hard to travel the whole country to go places to present them on his channel. It's something that I would really like to do because he gets to see all kinds of cool stuff. I mean, I'm already getting to see all kinds of cool stuff, just kind of sticking to the West Coast, but he goes everywhere. I mean, he goes to the East Coast, to the South, to the North, East, Northwest. He just goes everywhere. Anyway, I was talking with him. Oh, and he also was the driving force behind the commercial release Coaster San Diego to, oh, wait, is it Coaster? Well, it's about the coaster trains in San Diego to Oceanside or something like that. I don't remember, but the coaster video. I have a copy of it here in my office, but I'm not going to stand up and have a blank screen for you to watch here. But hi, Bill, and thank you. What I was going to say is Mike and I were talking, and he said that I don't remember exactly how the conversation went, but it was something like, oh, we should collaborate on something else, but make it for YouTube. So I thought, oh, well, that would be really neat because he gets to see stuff and film stuff that I just don't get to see, like the 3751, right? Going to San Bernardino. So I went to talk to him about that on the phone, and he suggested that, well, I'm going to be filming this 3751 thing. They do this every year. Thanks for stopping in, SMT. We'll see you later. And he suggested that he could provide the footage and the script, and then I could just edit the whole thing and narrate it. So I did. And that's how the annual Steam special got started. The following several years were all done with Mike. And if I remember right, we had two about the Durango and Silverton. One was a winter special. One was, and by the way, you can see all these. If you look on the main channel, look for annual Steam specials. There are now 8 in the playlist. I think it's 8. But we did 2 on Durango and Silverton. One of them was the Durango and Silverton in the winter. So it's all their equipment in the winter running around on their line. And the other one was about the Eureka and Palisade. The engine's called the Eureka. It's an American 440 wood burner. It's a very nice locomotive that's owned by an attorney from Las Vegas whose name escapes me right now. Then at some point, Mike got too busy. Oh, and then the other one was on the skunk train. That's the, I can't remember the name. Is it the Northwestern Pacific or something like that? The one that runs from Willits to Fort Bragg, or Fort Bragg to Willits, up in Northern California, on the very northern coast of California. And it runs inland to Willits. So that was also, oh, that's it, California Western, thank you. And so we went to, oh, that's right, Northwestern Pacific is the NWP. That's up here in Santa Rosa or Petaluma and all that. Sorry about that. Desert Fisher, layout tours and chasing trains got me interested. I'm glad you're interested and happy to see you here. There are more layout tours coming for sure. Chasing trains is kind of iffy just because it doesn't get as many views as I'd like to see. Chasing trains is very popular with the people who like it, though. Like, there's a very vocal group of people that love chasing trains, so it's going to be hard not to do those. Mike's channel name is CoasterFan2105. Sorry, I should have mentioned that. Where was I? I was talking about the skunk train. Oh, right. So then at some point, Mike, CoasterFan2105, that's Mike Armstrong, got too busy. And he's like, I just don't have time. And he made a very generous offer, which I thought was really nice, to provide video if I wanted it, but then I'd have to write the script and do all that myself. Well, that's the part that I'm not really great at. I don't mind, but it just is so time consuming. So at that time, I was so busy with the editing that I had to do already. I was just like, okay, you know what? I really appreciate that, but I'm not going to right now. So that year, that was 2016, I talked with Mike Ninneman, who was the guest engineer on the video that we just watched here today. And he happens to know quite a bit about the Sierra Railway or Railroad. And he was a volunteer for, or has been for a number of years, off and on, at Railtown 1897, which is a part of the California State Park system here in my state. And they still operate the Sierra number 3. So in 2016, I collaborated with him on that. And then last year, 2017, there was a trip to the Virginia and Truckee that was specifically to get footage for the annual Steam Special. And then this year, it was the Nevada Northern. So that's what I mean when I say I feel like I'm sort of running out, because I want the annual Steam Special to be something big like that, big Steam. I could do small Steam stuff or shortliner heritage or tourist Steam. And that is definitely a very good possibility for 2019. I just haven't decided yet on that. I'm going to see how this most recent one does. And I think it'll do pretty well, just because I think it's well done. I'm going to put a link in the live chat again, just in case anybody wants to go take a look at it. So, Miguel, I don't think I'm going to stop chasing trains altogether. It's just that I don't get out that often. Let me see what this says. How do we let you know we like chasing trains other than watching each one? Well, I already know that this is for Train Guy 56. I already know that a lot of people like it, because anytime I've talked about doing fewer of them or not doing them anymore, a lot of people say, oh no, like Miguel Chavez here is saying that, don't stop making it. I get that feedback from a fair number of people. It's just that, let me kind of explain this. So if you get, thanks, Gary, I appreciate that. I was talking about you earlier. Looks like Gary's made his cameo appearance here. Welcome, Gary, and thank you very much for your part in the Steam Special. Gary Perazzo is the guy that just commented down here in the chat screen, was one of the people that was instrumental in going to Ely this past year. Matter of fact, he rented the car and drove us out there. Thank you very much, Gary. I used a few of the shots that Gary took during the video. Let me see here. Question about NNR. How many diesel? I think you're asking how many diesels are in their collection right now. I think they have 8 or 9. If I remember right, Mark Bassett talked about them having, I think, 8 of the original diesel engines there. So Garrett, I agree with you that the Yosemite Mountain Sugar Pine would make a good Steam Special. I haven't been there. I need to go there. And I even know somebody, or have met the guy. He would probably remember me if I talked to him, who is very involved there. So that might be a possibility. I also know people at Roaring Camp. Trevor was on here a little while ago. I don't know if he's still on. That's Tree Frog Flag Productions. He also has a very good YouTube channel, by the way. And Gary Perazzo, Goofy Gary, also has a very good YouTube channel. If you guys want to take a look at theirs, you can search YouTube for Goofy Gary and find Gary's. But yeah, it isn't decided yet whether I'm going to do another annual special or not. I really have to make a decision and just decide what I'm going to do. And that's what I was talking about a little bit earlier about doing the podcast, is I have to make decisions for a lot of programs, what to do and what not to do, because everything that I do takes a lot of time, which means there's a limited time for getting it out there. For example, if I do a layout tour, depending on the layout, it's an entire day of filming, and then another anywhere from, depending on the layout, 20 to 40 hours of editing. Just depends on the layout. So layout tours take a long time. Now, if I could just do a layout tour and edit in the same day, I could put them out just all the time. But the way I do it, the procedure or the process that I use to do it, to get the quality that you guys enjoy, just takes longer than that. And that's true of everything. If I'm going to do a model railroading 101, that takes time too, because I have first, you got to figure out what you're going to talk about. And then in my case, I'm always looking for people who know more than I do, because no matter how much you know about something, there's always someone who knows more. And I'm not saying that because I'm some big expert, because I'm not. I make videos. That's what I'm good at. So if I talk to someone who is an expert, and I don't mean someone who pretends to be an expert and just has an opinion about everything, I'm talking about people who are real experts. It takes time to find them, and it takes time to arrange it and kind of explain what's going on. So there's a lot of sort of pre-work that happens. And I mean, because frankly, if I were going to do something and just wanted to make it easy on myself, I just go to Wikipedia and tell you everything, just plagiarize Wikipedia, right? But that's not how you do it. That's not the right way to do it. There are insights to be had or to be heard from people who know more that will make you appreciate things more. That's kind of my approach. So I'm trying to find those people. So to do a model railroading 101, got to do a lot of pre-work, talk to people who know other people, get introduced, meet them, you know, all this, there's all this stuff, and give them an idea what the vision is for the program. So it's a very time consuming process. And that's kind of what I'm getting at here. So I have to be sort of, there's a word. This is another thing with my memory. I know all these words, but I just can't remember them when I'm trying to come up with them. I have to be, it starts with a D. I know that. Not decisive. It'll come to me later, but I have to choose carefully what I'm going to do, because if I spend a bunch of time on something that doesn't get views, that doesn't help the channel grow. Whereas if I spend the same amount of time on something that gets a lot of views, that helps the channel grow a lot. And growth is what I'm after, because the more the channel grows, the more it's visible with YouTube's algorithms when they're showing you ideas of what you can watch, you know, off to the right side of your screen. There's always a list of stuff if you watch on a computer, and it's basically related videos that you might also like based on what you've been watching. Well, if you've been watching train videos, and I have a channel that only has 1,000 subscribers and 1,000 views a week, you're never going to see it. But if I have, like Coaster Fan, if I have 400,000 subscribers and 4 million views, and I don't know Sarge, you're going to mess me up here. Stop it. I think I was going to say discriminating. I have to be discriminating with my choices of what to do. But if I was going to say, if you have a channel like, right, Shane's laughing now because people are messing me up with chat. I should just not look at the chat, but I'm trying to be interactive here. If I have a channel like Mike's that has 4 million views a week or whatever he gets a huge number. That shows up in that's what I'm getting at. It shows up from the search or from the algorithms that YouTube uses to recommend videos to you. So another thing that I'd like to mention is I would really, really like to not have ads on the videos. And I started a Patreon page, I think in September. Yeah, I launched it in September 1st. And it's been adding patrons very slowly, but they are adding. And my hope is that eventually, because look, there are 24,000 subscribers, or close to 24,000 subscribers on this channel. And what I had hoped was, if only 1 or 2% of that 24,000 were to become a patron for $2 a month or $5 a month, it really adds up fast, because that's sort of the trick to social media and to online like this, is that if you can tap just a small percentage of the people that enjoy what you're doing and they're willing to chip in, I did the math for $2 a month, it's like 7 cents a day. That's less than a gumball you know, especially nowadays. You can even get a gumball for less than a quarter. But if you can chip in 7 cents a day, but you got hundreds or thousands of people doing it, that would be enough that I could completely unmonetize the YouTube channel so you don't have to deal with ads, because I don't like the ads. The ad this morning on the annual Steam special ate into the first 3 minutes of the Steam special because I didn't click the skip ad part. So as I was watching the premiere, I didn't see the introduction. And I'm going to post a link for the Steam special in our thing here so people can watch it if they want to. That's a link that I just posted in the text chat if you want to watch the annual Steam special. But that's how all this stuff works. And if I could just get rid of the ads, because I really don't like ads on the videos. I think it sucks having to watch, and then there's an ad all, you know, depending on the program, there might be an ad every 5 minutes. I have to do it because it's one of the few ways that I can scrape together some cash flow. And believe me when I tell you, though, it's not much, but when you're at the level I'm at right now, every penny helps. So I have the ads turned on. If I get enough people contributing to the Patreon presence, I can take those ads off and I won't have to subject all you guys to ads anymore. That's really my goal with the Patreon thing, because if I can, now that's not to say that I wouldn't still sometimes get corporate sponsors, because that's part of trying to raise money privately, you know, to fund what I'm doing here. Because ideally I'd like the endeavor of the YouTube channel and the videos that I produce to be sort of a self-funding process. It isn't right now. It's been in the red for a long time. I do it because I like to do it. And like I was talking about earlier on this webcast, I think that the hobbies that involve trains are very worthwhile hobbies, and I enjoy them. So I think promoting that is pretty good. I'm going to put it in here. I don't know. I'm not trying to be a shameless self-promoter here, but I'm going to do this anyway in case you're interested and don't already. There it is. In case you're interested and don't already patronize the channel on Patreon, there's a link. I have these branded things like little mugs you can get if you donate at a certain level. It's pretty cool because there only a few people have them so far. And I don't know. I'm trying to explain this in a way that I'm not just here trying to make a bunch of money, because that's not what happens here. I'm trying to do what I do to provide quality content so that it'll further the hobbies that I think are worthwhile, and the people who watch also do, or else they wouldn't watch, right? That's my assumption in this. Anyway, I've been talking for already almost for an hour, so I'm going to try to wrap things up. I want to give a minute. If you have a YouTube channel that you'd like to let everybody else be aware of, you're welcome to mention it in the text chat here. And if anything gets filtered, I'll make sure to put it through so that people can see. And I really want to, at the end of the year, I want to thank everybody who watches, especially to people who have become supporters on Patreon, and to people who contribute comments all the time. Sergeant Ghost, Avlisk, Shane. There are a bunch of names here. I can't mention everybody because there's too many watching now that I recognize from the comment sections of the videos. I really appreciate all that. That's one of the things that I've talked about in the past. If you can't afford to do a Patreon, patronship, or whatever they call it, becoming part of the TSG train crew. If you can't afford to do that, you can afford to watch the videos and comment and hit that thumbs button, you know, the thumbs up button. So, and share it on social media. There's a great guy, Josh, he's from Salt Lake City. He's been plugging the channel on Facebook a lot. Whenever there's a new video, he does what we call giving it a boost. That's where he goes in a bunch of social media channels and shares the video with people who might like it. I don't have time to do that always. So super big shout out to Josh, who's been very helpful. Also, I want to mention Warren Johnson, also from the Salt Lake City area. I met him over the summer. You can see a video of his layout. We briefly went to tour his layout. It wasn't an official layout tour, but on the N-Scale convention video that came out a couple months ago, he's been posting. Warren Johnson is actually fairly well known in the Salt Lake City area in the railfan community because he worked at the Salt Lake City Union Pacific shops for decades and has a lot of really excellent pictures that he posts on Facebook. And I asked him sometime in, I think, September or maybe October, if he would share some of his photos to the TSG Multimedia Facebook group. And he's been doing that. So all these vintage photos, mostly of UP and Rio Grande. There are shots from the shops. Like today, he posted a shop shot. I think he called it In the Shop Saturday or something like that. That's Warren Johnson. Thank you so much, Warren, for doing that. I think it brings a lot of very interesting and valuable content to the Facebook channel that people really appreciate and enjoy. So thank you very much for that. Since I'm on the topic of year-end thanks, Gary Perazzo, I don't know if he's still on here, but thank you very much, Gary. Mike Ninneman, who was the instigator for 2 of the really excellent trips that we took this year with Gary. Hunter Lose, who's been on the channel a few times this year and also was one of the proponents of the Chasing Trains episode of the Sierra Northern. I'll probably forget people, so if I forget you, I apologize. On the Model Railroading 101 side of things, huge shout out to John Wiley, who's been very generous in sharing his knowledge for the Model Railroading series. This is good because now that I'm doing this here, I'm not going to have to do it on the podcast because it'll take up probably 10 minutes of podcast time. Also, Nick LaRusso, who's been very generous with his knowledge and help around the SBHRS and also has appeared on several of the a few of the live webcasts. Robin Gilstrom also has appeared on live webcasts, went on at least one field trip that we took out to the California State Railroad Museum this year. Huge thanks to Robin and for being a super great guy around the depot all the time. Jack Burgess is a huge thanks to Jack. Jack was one of the first ever patrons, parts of the train crew on the Patreon page. Super huge thanks and contributes awesome content for the Model Railroading with Jack Burgess series, which was added this year. I thought that's been a huge benefit to the channel. And, he does modeling. What do they call it at the convention? See what I mean? I can't think of these words. Starts with a C, I think. Well, it'll come to me. I think I have dementia or something because I just can't remember words for the life of me. It sounds like contract, convention, presentations, right? I'll think of it. Somebody probably will type it in. He does these things at the conventions. They're presentations of how to do stuff, right? Somebody help me out here. As soon as I see the word, I'm going to go, duh. Clinics, that's it. Thank you. God. He does clinics. And see, but the thing is, if you only do a clinic at a convention, your audience is limited to the people that can fit in the room, right? Now, you can do a bunch of conventions, or you could do a video. And thank you guys for clinic. That's exactly what I was thinking of. Anyway, so you can do a clinic at a convention, but you could also do a video on a channel with 23 or 24 or whatever 1,000 subscribers, and a lot more people will see it. And that's what we're doing. And it's I think, a great way to expand and promote and try to bring more people into the hobby. Because if you see how to do some of the advanced stuff that he does, and if you've seen his layout, it's nothing but super high quality stuff on a museum quality layout. It's just amazing. But that helps expand and promote the hobby, which is what I've been talking about. So huge thanks to Jack. huge thanks to Murph. That's Rich Murphy. I met Murph, I think about a couple of years ago, and became friends. What a super excellent and great guy. I mean, talk about a kind person that you would want to have as your friend. I would mention a lot of the guys also at the DCC lunch, just because talking to them, I get a lot of information, and it helps me think of ideas of maybe something that I could do a program on, for example. And I can't name all of them, but that's thanks to those guys. One in particular I could name is Dave Adams, because I'm always going to the DCC lunch with Dave. We've kind of made that a thing. So super huge thanks to Dave. Super huge thanks to Jason Hill from Owl Mountain Models, who was nice enough to come here and show everybody how to build and weather his wood kits, the lumber load kits. So I can't think of anybody else offhand other than my top secret coffee connoisseur, but that goes without saying. Super huge thanks to the special coffee connoisseur. I'm probably forgetting, so if I forgot you, I apologize. Oh, I know somebody else I would like to mention, and you're going to see this person on an upcoming episode of Chasing Trains, and that's Alvin Gilbert, who's also from the Salt Lake City area, who also became a patron this year and was on an episode of Chasing Trains that hasn't been released yet. That's going to come out sometime in 2019. So somebody mentioned earlier about, do more Chasing Trains. I'm not going to stop doing Chasing Trains as long as I get out to do stuff, because when I'm out, yes, it's Fabio. Gary remembers. Alvin's known as Fabio in our circle. What a great guy. I've been talking to him quite a bit too. I should mention also thanks to Ken Patterson, because he's had me on his show and also appeared on my show with an interview on a podcast a while back. Really, anybody who's appeared on the podcast or Model Railroading 101, if I forgot you for some reason, or even someone who's shared a layout with us on the channel, just thanks to everybody who's done what they've done to help promote the channel by promoting the hobby on this channel. Super appreciated, like more than you know, because like I was saying before, as things continue to grow here, that's going to allow me to continue. They say, there's an old saying about finding something to do in your life that you really like to do, and it won't seem like work. And now don't get me wrong, because there is a ton of work that goes into these things. But what I'm going to say is I enjoy every minute, especially of the production side. And what I mean by that is there are three parts to production. There's pre-production, which I've talked about when I was talking a few minutes ago about Model Railroading 101. That's figuring out your topic, figuring out experts, coming up with a plan to structure it so that it all makes sense. Then there's production. That's the part that I enjoy the most. That's when you're there doing the actual filming. So for Chasing Trains, production consists of driving around, laughing your ass off with your friends, and just all the misadventures that happen with Chasing Trains. And I'm sure you're all familiar with that. Then there's post-production. That's editing everything together. I think that the part of post-production that I enjoy the most is when it's all done and I can watch it and go, oh, this is pretty good. Otherwise, it's the post-production is my least favorite, I think, because it's very tedious work. You have to go through every shred of footage that you filmed and, throw out the stuff that you're not going to use. So there's a lot of stuff that doesn't get used. I've often thought it would be funny to just put together a long clip of everything that I didn't use that year and just put it up and see if people watch it. But post-production is probably the most time-consuming and the most boring part of the production process, and the part that I enjoy the least. I'm good at it, but that doesn't mean I like it. So, but yeah, so there is a lot of work, but I enjoy the work. overall, I enjoy the work because in the end, and I've talked about this on podcasts in the past, in the end, you've produced something. It's a lot like when I used to paint houses for a living. I was a house painter with a friend of mine. And when you're done with, it's a lot of hard work because you have to prep the house, which is scraping and washing and, just a lot of boring work. But when you can step back to the curb and look at the house all done and just enjoy it. And it's like, we did a good job. And I get that same sense of satisfaction or gratification when, for example, we just watched the premiere. Let me put the link again here. I keep forgetting to do this, but I want to do it so that it scrolls away. It comes up again. Maybe there's a way to pin that to the top, but let me see. No, I can only remove it here. But what I was going to say is when you get to the end and watch it and you see the joy that it brings to other people, that's why I really like reading the comments in the comment sections of the videos and how much people enjoyed it. There's nothing like that. I've also been a musician in my life and played for fairly large audiences, not more than 1,000, but up to 1,000. And the feeling you get when you've just finished a song and they cheer for it it's exhilarating, and it's very similar. It's a very satisfying feeling that all of the work that you put into doing what you've done has brought joy to somebody. That's really cool. And, I've talked about this before, and I think it was on the last live webcast when I was talking with Eric Child and Trevor Park and Paul Nolan about bringing people into the hobby and that kind of thing. Or it might have been when I was talking to Gary and Hunter here in my studio. I get a lot of happiness from bringing joy to other people. And the example that I made of that, a recent example that I made of that was when Gary and Hunter were here and I was able to take them to the SBHRS, that's the museum that I'm a part of here in the Bay Area, and show them all this historic Southern Pacific stuff and bring them up into the interlocking tower there. It's kind of a special thing because there are not a lot of interlocking towers in existence anymore because they all seem to burn down in mysterious fires. But seeing the enjoyment that they got from that and seeing the enjoyment that Eric and Trevor and Paul also got from that, it's really satisfying. I just remembered a few people that I left off by accident when I was thanking everybody. Huge thanks to Kevin Hill. I don't know how I forgot that. He did the video here about the American Flyer, rehabbing your American Flyer trains, and has just been a great friend to have. It's nothing but laughs when I get together with him. And also with Trevor, we did the installation of the DCC into a garden scale Shay. You may remember that one. Nothing but laughs. And really the whole Hill family of Hollister. It's been great to hang out with them this year. And another thanks that I just remembered, see how my brain works? I was just going through all the videos that have brought me such happiness, and I start thinking of people. Marty Lockmiller, I've known him for a few years. I know him from the Carquinez Model Railroad Society. That's the layout up in Crockett that we did a layout tour a few years ago. He's appeared on a few Chasing Trains episodes. Jamie West and Liam Hart also were on a Chasing Trains episode this year that was really great. So, like I said, I mean, if I sit here and think about it or put a list up of all the programs from this year, I'll come up with 100 people to thank. And my apologies again if I forgot anybody. But yeah, it's been a really great year, though. I guess I'm not going to have to do a whole bunch of recap stuff for the podcast now because I sort of covered it right here today. And I keep wanting to sign off of here, but the audience, the average audience view is growing as we roll along. And I don't want to bore everybody to death here. I've been going for over an hour. But anyway, thanks to everybody. And of course, if I were to mention all the viewers too, a huge thanks to everybody who watches and enjoys the channel. If you can find a way to share the videos on your social media, add comments. One thing I'd like to do, which would be really great, is to get little conversations going on in the comment sections of the videos themselves. Not arguments per se. I mean, that will happen if you have conversations, but just conversations, share some stuff that you think is cool. One thing that you may have noticed, if you've ever come on to the TSG multimedia channel to try and plug something that you sell or your channel or something like that, that stuff gets automatically filtered by YouTube. So it never makes it, or usually doesn't make it onto the comment sections. But if you post a link to a picture, it'll get filtered. But when I see it and see what it is, and if it's just like a picture or something like that, I'll approve the comment and put it on there. So do you see what I'm saying? So if you share stuff like that, please feel free. I invited people to share their YouTube channels if they wanted to in the chat window here, but I didn't seem like anybody did. So what we could do, I've seen other people who have posted not a link to their channel, but the number of subscribers that they have. We could do that if you want. That way, anybody who's posting a number of subscribers, anybody watching can then click on your name in the chat window and it will go to your page. You guys want to do that? You can post the number of subscribers in the chat window, and anyone who's interested can go take a look at your channel. I'm not opposed to helping people out. I just don't like it when people try to use what I've worked so hard to create just to plug their stuff. I find that kind of cheap and cheesy. And it's something that you'll notice I don't do on other people's channels, and really have never done on other people's channels. So yeah. We're still hovering around 30 viewers. So is there anything else? Maybe do you guys have any questions for me about the program, the Nevada Northern program that we watched this morning, or maybe comments about something you think would be interesting to cover? I'll probably go through and look at this chat window again later when I'm not talking, just to see if there's anything I can pick out of it as an idea for a program or something like that. But it has my attention right now. Maybe while I'm waiting for people to type stuff in, I could mention I did a live webcast, and it was the one where I had Hunter and Gary with me here, where I talked about all the, thanks, Gary, that's very helpful. Jeez. Oh, that's interesting, Tom. Well, put in the number of subscribers that you have, or anybody watching could click on Tom McAdams to go see his channel. Maybe YouTube is filtering that stuff automatically in the live chat, because I did not see something for me to approve it on the chat window here. So I apologize for that. Yeah, just put the number of subscribers, like Train Guy. I'm assuming Train Guy put 70 as the number of subscribers, but oh, that's kind of cool. SP Radio Audio, that's neat. Oh, Shane, so YouTube's filtering all that stuff? I thought YouTube required me to approve or disapprove all questionable comments. Okay, so yeah, put in your subs down here, and then people will know that you have a channel. There you go. Anybody who's interested can click on the name of the person in the chat window to go look at their channel if you'd like to plug your own channel here by putting the number of subscribers that you have. But I wanted to mention, when Gary and Hunter were here, I started talking about this a minute ago. I mentioned 8 or 9 or something, things that you can do to support the channel and help it grow, even if you can't contribute, the $2 a month or whatever it is on Patreon. And since I'm here waiting for people to post stuff anyway, maybe I'll bring that up real quick, or maybe I'll do it from memory. I mentioned a little while ago about posting it in social media. That really does help. I find that it's nice to have other people go into a group and say, hey, I just watched this video and I thought it was really good. Maybe you guys would like it. And then it's my video. And I'm like, oh, well, that's really cool. So if you can do that on social media, or maybe if you're part of a club or a group, you could share it with your friends there. Because most people that like train stuff have friends who also like train stuff. So you can share it that way. If you're ever sitting, doing something else like modeling, John Wiley told me, and I think Nick LaRusso also, I think they both do this. They have their computers in their workspaces and they'll watch videos while they're working on models. You could do that because it adds view time to the channel. I mentioned before when Gary and Hunter were here about clicking on the ads. Now, I'm not saying to click on every ad that pops up because that's kind of a cheesy and cheap thing to do. And I think YouTube sees that as cheating. So I would never suggest for you to click on all the ads. But if there's an ad that pops up for something that you actually have some interest in, look at it. Because anytime an ad is clicked, that helps with some minuscule amount that Google pays to the channel. So that helps. Watching a lot of the archived stuff, so the stuff that's on the channel and playlists, that helps because every minute of view time is logged by YouTube, and it all helps the channel become more discoverable in the right side of recommended videos, like I said before. So you can also hit the thumbs up, post comments. You can even hit the thumbs down if you want. That still counts as engagement. So whether it's a thumbs up or a thumbs down, it helps the channel. It also helps if I put out some video that has more thumbs down than it has thumbs up. I won't do that again. But, right, so it helps to register your approval or not. So also there's a website, tsgmultimedia.com, that has, there you go, Shane, that would work too. There's a website, tsgmultimedia.com, that has a bunch of videos that were released over the time that I've been doing train videos, which was 2005 to the present. You could buy one of those. Oh, that costs money, though. I was talking about stuff that doesn't cost money. You can go to Facebook and like the Facebook page, follow the Facebook page. You'll get a lot of really great photos from Warren Johnson's collection. Also, I repost photos to the Facebook page from groups that I'm part of. Like if I see a really good photo, I'm like, oh, this is too good not to share. And a lot of times they'll be posted without comment. And you'll know why, because if you look at the picture, you're just like, oh, that's pretty stunning, whatever it is, or interesting. So, or you could also contact me with ideas about programs that you think might be interesting. There are a lot of different things that you can do that don't cost anything. So, and I appreciate all of it. I hope that comes across. I'm not just here trying to take advantage of people and, that kind of thing, taking advantage of your goodwill and help or whatever. The mission really is to promote the hobby in the most positive way that I can possibly do it. And when I say the hobby, I mean just trains in general. Here's an idea I think I'll float. I don't know, is everybody done putting in their subs in here so we can start winding this down? Because I've been going for almost an hour and a half. I'm starting to feel a little hoarse. I need some coffee before I quit. What was I going to say? I've totally forgot now. Well, shoot. I almost said shit, but I don't want to offend anybody. I don't use that kind of language normally. I'm getting punchy because I've been going on for too long. I might even getting a little hoarse now. Right, Tom? You caught it, huh? Yeah, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, I know what I was going to say. To promote the hobby. When I say the hobby, I'm talking about, oh, that's what it was. I was going to ask you. I have had on or in the can, as they say, it's a script anyway, a script for making better videos. Okay. Remember I was saying earlier that I try to find experts for things because I'm not an expert on all this train stuff. I am an expert, or relatively speaking, an expert on making videos that look good. So I wrote an entire script that's like a video 101. And I've been wanting to produce this video for at least a year, but it keeps getting pushed to the back of the pile because I have this other train stuff that I know people who watch the videos enjoy. So now, and I realize this is not a representative sample or a big sample size. There are 24 people watching at the moment. I see someone already, sort of 2 people now, have said to go ahead and do that. Here's the thing. So I don't know how many people who watch the channel also make videos. So I don't know how interesting that would be. Or maybe it would bring in people who don't already watch the channel and don't care about trains, but maybe want to learn something about making videos, because that is something I do know about. I could probably do a whole series of video production sort of classes or something like that. Now, they would be, video production is an art as much as it's not a science. I wouldn't call it that, but there's a lot of artistic license that takes place. And I would be showing you the way that I would do things. Now, I'm certainly not saying that everybody who wants to make a video makes good videos, because that is not the case. That's part of the reason why I'm on YouTube in the first place, because I wanted to have an alternative to those kind of videos. But where was I going with that? Gary, I might learn something. Oh, well, Gary, you can ask me anything anytime. You got my phone number. What I was going, Train Guy 56 says, use his videos as an example of what not to do. I want to tell you something that is kind of funny. Now, Gary's watching. He knows this because he was here for one of these live webcasts. I'm not just in a room. I have studio lights off camera here so that you can see this side of me. This one has a window, which is purposely drawn so it's not blowing up. You see how crazy that gets? And I'm nothing but a big white glow over here. So that's because the window's open and the sun's over here. Isn't that a lot better? Now, who would think of that? And if I do this, oh, I don't know if it'll reach here because the cord might be, oh, look. I'm not happy with this glare, but there was nothing I could do. You see it right here at the top of that sign there? Not happy with that glare, but there was nothing I could do about that. But do you see how it's lit nice now? You can see everything. And I have this microphone here so that you can hear everything. To me, it's kind of like second nature, because this is what I do. This is what I've been doing since 1990. Well, professionally since 1998. So I have a lot of experience with it. And this is one of the funny things I'll talk about. I see everybody put their subs in, which was what I was going to close with. Oh, headphones. Shoot. Yeah, they're logged away. I can hear myself talking, so I'm not going to use headphones. This is one of the things that I often talk about that I often talk about on with people that I know, especially the railroading or modeling experts that I know, which is this concept that I have of knowing enough to ask the right questions, okay, or to decide things. So, for example, if somebody who doesn't really know anything about video were making this video, this shade that I just showed you would be open, these lights would be off, and probably the shade behind me, behind these railroad signs, that's a shade as well because there's a window there, that would probably be open, and the picture would suck. It would just literally, it would suck. It would be so hard to watch. Well, for me, hard to watch that I would have a hard time sitting through it. Well, excuse me. Speaking of coffee, but And they also wouldn't have lights on over here. I don't just have the light that I showed you. There's another light with 2 more light bulbs putting light from this direction. I have another light up here that I sometimes use. Oh, that looks even better, doesn't it? Maybe I should have had that one on too. I didn't think it was necessary. Lights are everywhere in this studio, and that's a really key thing to making good videos, is having enough light, and from the right direction in the right amount. That matters too. Anyway, I guess that's, oh, and the other thing, somebody who doesn't know anything, they wouldn't have this microphone here. They would rely on the microphone in the computer, which that might work in a setting like this, but the quality from an external USB condenser microphone like this is a lot better than anything you'd get from an onboard in the computer microphone. So now I know these things because I've been doing production professionally for over 20 years now, but someone who doesn't have the first idea about lighting or anything else, they wouldn't even know the right question to ask. This is what I was getting at before. If I were to do a 101 video about video production, it could give someone like that enough information to know the right questions to ask. And for example, a great question that most people, probably most of the people watching right now, wouldn't know to ask, because most people don't know this much about lighting, is, gee, what color temperature of lights should I use off camera here so that it mixes well with what's ambient coming in from outside? Now, if you know about color temperature, you could ask that question, and these are all matched, okay? Now, it's not precise, but it's close enough to this diffused light that's coming in from outdoors here. It's close enough where it doesn't mess up the color. Does anything look like it's the wrong color in here? Okay. If I were to use the compact fluorescent lights that are just up in the can lights in this room, it would look horrible. It would look all orange and terrible because it doesn't mix, or the light that's coming in from outside would look really blue, because that's what color sunlight is. It's very blue. People don't know that. They think it's orange, but it's not. It's very blue. That's how the video camera perceives it. So knowing about color temperature is really good. So there's also the matter of white balancing your camera to the light. Now, the camera I'm using for this live thing is in the computer. I don't have manual controls for that. But if I were using an external camera, someone just asked me what kind of camera to use and what kind of microphone. I'm not sure, train guy, I'm not sure which setting you're talking about, but in this case, I'm just using the webcam inside my iMac, and I'm using a Samsung COU3, I think, as a USB audio device. I do the narration for my videos with this microphone too. I like the tone that it gets. Hello, Glenn. I'm not sure who Ken is. Maybe that's somebody chatting here. My name's John. But I was guessing that you're saying hi to me, but I don't know. But I'm glad to see you, and thank you for being here. I have used a GoPro in the past, and I have a GoPro style, action camera, the same size and design, that I'm going to do a brief sort of product spotlight / review on in the near future. It was sent to me by the manufacturer. Thanks, Michael. I appreciate that. I'll probably forget your name until after we've done this a few times, but thank you for mentioning that. This GoPro style camera I mentioned a second ago was sent to me by a manufacturer to evaluate and to make a video about. And when I do make the official review for it, I'm going to have a link in the description that if you're interested in buying the camera, you can get a discount for it with this link that I'm going to have. So look for that hopefully in the coming weeks. It's something that keeps getting pushed back to the bottom of the pile because of all these other projects that have a much higher priority. But I've been in contact with the person who sent the camera for evaluation, and he's been asking about it. Hey, are you going to ever do that? And it's like, yeah, I will do it. It's just gonna take time because I have to get to it, and I can't put the train related stuff on the back burner for something that's not quite as related. The reason that's good, Hamilton. Nice to meet you too. Is your last name Sullivan? The cool thing about this. Okay. Oh, I see what you guys are saying. Okay. So Glenn probably thought my name was Ken. Hi, Glenn. I'm John. But I'm also very grateful that you're here. And thank you for popping on to say hi and welcome. I'm in the process of, well, I've been in the process of trying to sign off for about a half hour now, but people keep watching and keep commenting. So it's hard to just go. This camera that I was talking about a minute ago, back to that real quick. Before I forget, let me just do this. In case you're just joining us, we're all here because we watched the premiere of the annual Steam special this morning. It started about 2 hours and 15 minutes ago. I just posted a link to it in the chat window on the side there. So if you didn't get to watch it, oh, I see, Glenn. That makes sense. Thanks for coming, and thanks for watching Ken's show too. I'm sure it was probably a good show. I just posted a link in the chat window to the video that a lot of us watched before I started this live stream. And so now we've come around to have done a lot of stuff. Paul, I'll get back to 4014 as soon as I'm done, because I do want to finish talking about. That was one of those things I lost the track on. Okay. That happens when I'm talking. Part of it's because I get distracted from the chat window, and part of it's because I think of other stuff that I think is important enough to address. So the camera that I'm talking about is a small GoPro style camera. And the reason why I asked for it to do the evaluation for the manufacturer is because it's small enough to set down on a layout. And you know, if you watch the channel, that I do layout tours. So I asked for it so that I could have something to use on my layout tours. Now, I haven't had a chance to do a lot of layout tours, well, since I got it, but I also haven't had the need to use it on a layout tour either. So that's kind of pushed the whole evaluation process toward the back of the burner, if you will. So I'm going to go back to 4014 because I do want to mention this. Oh, and look for the review of that camera sometime in the near future. It's a little GoPro style thing. The 4014. So I was talking about this earlier. I do have plans. At least I want to go to Utah during the time when that 150th anniversary thing is happening. What is unlikely to happen is I'll be very unlikely to get a lot of really great shots of the trains without a ton of people ruining the shot, or what I call ruining the shot. When I shoot a prototype train, I try very hard not to have anything in the shot other than the scenery and the train. So when I say people ruining the shot, that's what I'm talking about. Because that is going to be a zoo. The whole event in 4014 and all that is going to be a zoo. There are going to be people everywhere. There's probably going to be horrendous traffic everywhere. So it'll be impossible to get really legitimate shots of just the train, or trains, as it were. So that being said, I'll probably go. I'm not going to go with the intent of trying to get really great shots of steam engines running on the main lines, or really great shots of steam engines at the museum or anything like that, because it's going to be impossible to do that. But what I will do, there are a couple things. I want to be there because that's only going to happen once. And 150 is one of those sort of milestones, right? So you want to be there for that. And I would love to see the 4014 because I have never seen that one in person. I have seen 844 in person. So it would be cool to see the 4014. I really would like to go so that I can see the friends that I've made in Salt Lake City and in that area of Utah, because they're super cool people. And they also extended the invitation that if and when, anytime I go out to Utah to hit them up, and we'll go do stuff and they'll show me stuff that they know about that someone just showing up wouldn't know about. So it would be great to see them. And they have there's an awesome pizza place that we all enjoy very much. Forgot the name of it. I think it's the Pie or something like that. And there's one in Ogden and there's one in Salt Lake City. So whenever I go there, I'll certainly be making a visit to that place, probably with them. So, and to be honest, that whole Weber Canyon and Echo Canyon and that whole area is a really neat place to film trains. The UP main line there is very busy, and a lot of very big and impressive trains come through there. And the scenery is also stunning. That's what one of the upcoming episodes of Chasing Trains is going to be about. We went through Weber Canyon and Echo Canyon and places in that general area, but it's on the Evanston sub of Union Pacific. Very scenic. And you'll see when the Chasing Trains comes out, the kind of action you can get up there and the kind of scenery that's up there. So I will certainly, or most likely, be going to Utah for that whole 4014 thing. I don't know how much of it's going to be, going to where the crowds are, just because the chance for getting a good shot of anything where there are mobs of people is practically zero. So I'm not sure. The other thing, and thanks to Gary for mentioning this, I talked to Gary recently. I said, hey, maybe we should try to start making plans for that Utah thing, because Gary's one of the people that I've talked to who wants to go. And the prospects of, renting a big van or RV or something like that are 0 to none. I mean, it was just a pipe dream for me. I've always wanted to do an epic Chasing Trains where we get an RV and have like 10 guys. It would be hilarious to try to do something like that. Just the stuff that would happen and the stuff that would be said, I'd probably have to edit most of it out, because knowing the people that I hang around with, it would mostly be inappropriate for a family channel. But it would be the most fun probably in the century. But I don't know. It's kind of short notice, but to do that for this trip, it's the perfect kind of trip for that, right? Because it's a huge event. It's a very important event in the country's history, really. And a lot of people want to go. So it's perfect for it. But I don't have the money to rent an RV. I think you need a special license to drive one, don't you? I don't know that, but I can't do it because I can't afford to do it. Otherwise, I'd be renting the RV and sending out the invitations already. There's probably at least a dozen people I'd like to invite to something like that. So I guess what we could do, though, is whoever wants to go, we can kind of caravan over there and try to do the same kind of things so that we're hanging out together when we do go. So that's an idea. And I think that Miguel Chavez had a great idea here, which is to get people that have drones, right? The aerial video devices, as I call them, or as some people like to call them, quadcopters. That's the snob terminology for a drone. It's a quadcopter. And I'm giving you crap right now, Gary, if you're still watching. So the answer to the question is it's going to most likely happen. But Gary said, when I called him, I started talking about this, but I never finished. Gary said, we don't know the plans yet because UP has not made public their plans for how, where, when, and what's going to happen with 4014. Because I've heard rumors, and they're just rumors at this point, that 4014 is actually not going to come from the east. It's actually going to come somehow from the west. Now, I don't know if that's true. It's just a rumor right now. So if it's going to come from the west, that means they need to have that thing done before it seems like it's going to be done. So we kind of need to wait until we know what's happening before we know what we're going to do. It's kind of like what I was talking about a while ago about having enough information to ask the right questions. So it's still very much in the planning stages right now. it'll happen. I don't know. That's the other thing to think about is because there's going to be so many people around, it's going to be hard to get lodging. So that's something else to consider if you're thinking about going, right? So see now BMW is saying that 844 is going to come from the west and Big Boy is going to come from the east. Is it? I don't know. I haven't seen anything official from UP, so I don't know. It'll be helpful to know what UP intends to do before I can make any plans to cover anything. So that's all I really have to say about that right now. I'm most certainly probably going to be out there. Well, there's another thing. Maybe I could plug the Patreon page. If you want to see us get an RV or some kind of a van or something and have like 10 or 12 guys go and the most epic chasing trains journey of the century, go sign up on Patreon so that I'll be making enough money to make it happen. Patreon here, I'll put it in here. I don't expect that it's going to work, but we'll try this anyway. I'm having to type this one in because I don't have it in my clipboard right now. If you go to that link that just popped up in the chat window and become a patron, I've added a couple new levels recently too. I have 2 corporate level patrons. Maybe you have a company that's very profitable and you're well, actually, I don't think you can write it off because that's not a non-profit. Oh, no, you could write it off because it would be for marketing. Because everybody that signs up on Patreon gets a mention on the podcast, which is actually marketing for you. But I have 2 corporate level Patreon contributor options, one for $100 a month and one for $200 a month. If I got 5 $200 corporate patrons, I could rent an RV for the most epic chasing trains trip of the century. See, there I go, dreaming big, but it doesn't hurt to ask, right? So if you have a very profitable company and you want some extra marketing, put it in your budget and become a corporate sponsor on Patreon, or just do it directly. That's even better because Patreon takes a percentage. Contact me directly because I'm always looking for corporate sponsors. And if you were to be a corporate sponsor directly, you actually get advertising on the channel. It's in the form of basically mentioning you on the podcast as a sponsor of the channel. So I do a monthly podcast, as most of you probably know. So if you own a company or if you're part of a company that wants extra, what do you call it? Extra exposure, right? Product awareness, brand awareness. You can sponsor the podcast. I'm actively seeking people to do that. I've thought about calling an RV place, but that takes time, and I really haven't had time for that, doing what I do. Noel, I can't run trains on this video because I do not have a layout, and for me to set something up here is practically impossible because I don't have anything this tall, and all I really have in here is snap track, and it wouldn't be very exciting, to be honest. So I like this idea though. And I know, Train Guy, you told me your name earlier. I thought you said Michael, but I don't remember. But I'm not just sitting around. Actually, I have a bunch of stuff that I need to do today, including getting ready for the podcast. I'm only sitting around here now because I've been sucked into this epic length live webcast that I should have. Craig, that's it. Thanks, Craig. I've been sucked into this epic length webcast because people keep talking. And Milton, that's probably going to happen. I have a module, right, with legs and everything that's sitting in the other room just waiting for me to have time to build something on it. So I am going to build something, and I want something so that I can take photos and short video clips, something that's scenic, right? Because I think it's boring to look at a train that I'm doing a spotlight on or a review running on a gray cloth on Unitrack. I think that's kind of boring. So I would prefer to be able to have this module scenic and built and run the train on that. But I just haven't had time. That's what I mean. What I do here in bringing these videos to the channel is really, it consumes my life. I'm not kidding about that. I've logged my hours that I've worked on the channel for the entire year of 2018, and it's more than a full-time job, which is another reason why I've been trying to get this Patreon thing going. If I could bring in enough money to, pay someone to write content or to do some of the editing, that's the real key right there, because that's what takes the most time. One of the reasons I really enjoy doing a live webcast like this is I don't have to edit this. This is going on 2 hours. I'm going to end this at 2 hours, okay? Because I'm just too busy to do something this long. Yeah, we're not going to talk about this on this webcast, Shane and Craig. Look, I will say one thing about my buddy Dan, which is I haven't stopped thinking of myself as his friend, but it appears that it did stop going the other direction. And for whatever reason, and I'm working on, trying to fix that. It's all up to him though, I mean, my door has been open. I'm going to talk to him probably tomorrow and try to figure some stuff out. And I'm even open to having him come on the channel again. It's really up to him though. And I'm not going to get into any details because everything's going to depend on him. My door's been open for the entire year, to be honest. But it hasn't felt the same way going the other direction. So that's why things are the way they are right now. That's all I'm going to say about that, because, I will tell you this though. I will tell you that I think Dan brings a lot of great talent, especially to plastic modeling. That SD40-2 build that's like 25 or 26 parts is epic. And it's all the stuff that you can do if you know how to make a regular sort of, I don't want to call it cheap because it's not a cheap model, but a lower quality or lower level of detail model look like something better than the best brass you can get. And if you have the time and have the information, like what he knows about that stuff, look, you could make a very inexpensive model look like a showpiece, a museum quality showpiece. So, oh, that was you, wasn't it, Shane, that compiled the list? Didn't you make a list and post it in one of those videos someplace? And by the way, Shane, I really appreciated that. I think that was a great idea and a great service that you did for the other viewers by doing that list of parts. So back to that. Oh, I thought you had posted it someplace. I'll have to look for it in Facebook and maybe repost it somewhere, because I think having the parts list like that is great. And then having the how-to stuff on there is also great, right? Because then you know where to put all the parts. So that's what I was going to say. I think that Dan brought a huge amount of value to the channel. I really do. I mean, his contributions, I think, made the channel worth watching for a long time, So it would be really neat if he was still interested in contributing to the channel, and it would give him some opportunities to promote some of the stuff that he does, because I think that it's worthwhile. And I'm really grateful to Dan for all the work that he did do and all the content and value and interest because the topics that he brought were really great. Now, I also think that since he quit, that I've been able to branch out and get a lot more different people and talk about things that we never would have explored had he, still contributed here. For example, I don't think we would have ever talked about JMRI because he has no idea about JMRI. I mean, other than what it is and a very basic level of what it is and what it does. So, I think that the content has changed in a very positive way since he quit. So I'm also glad that he quit in a way for that reason, but I also don't discount the level of expertise and knowledge and stuff that he was very knowledgeable about, and his presenting that stuff here on the channel. I think that was really great. And, I don't discount that. I think it's very, very valuable, and it's very valued, and it's also very much appreciated, right? Thinking about that, if you're talking about promoting the hobby in a positive way, like I've said, is the mission of the channel, has been my mission here. That's exactly what that was. That was promoting the hobby in a very positive way and sharing information about stuff that people who are new to the hobby might wonder about. I know that I learned a ton of stuff just making all those videos with him over the years. So yeah, that's, in a way, I should also thank Dan for 2018, come to think about it. And that might be part of the conversation I have if I end up getting to talk to him sometime soon, because all the information and expertise and all that stuff, especially on the Model Railroading 101 series that he came up with, I think contributed a lot to the success of the channel and gave the people who watch the channel a lot of great content to watch, because there's a lot of really interesting and valuable information in all that stuff. Right. So I think I've said enough. So that should be enough to say. And this is what I'm talking about. If you look in the chat window just now, Miguel Chavez said that that's who got him into model railroading, was TSG Multimedia. That was the stuff that we were doing when Dan was here. So I think that's great. Oh, and now TFN just commented what the situation is, but it would be great for him to come back. I agree. And I think that it would be cool for him, if he were willing to come back on as what I call guest celebrity from time to time, because he still has a lot of great information to share with people. The question is, does he have the same goal of promoting the hobby, or is his goal promoting Dan? See, that's the question. And that was a struggle and something that I'm going to have to talk to him about if he is interested, because he can kind of do both if he wants to. But it's something I'm going to talk to him about later. So Train Guy is mentioning to Noel, I guess that's how you say that name, Noel. I know I've known people with that name in the past, and the female versions of that always say Noel, and the male versions always say Noel. I don't know, so I'm kind of winging it here, but there are a lot of videos about installing DCC decoders and engines. As a matter of fact, and I should have mentioned this the first time Noel McCarthy said this, how do you put, I don't know why people call it a chip, because a decoder is not a chip. There are a bunch of chips on a board. To install DCC into a locomotive can be very easy. And if you search this channel, TSG Multimedia, for installing DCC into a locomotive, you'll find probably dozens of videos, at least probably half a dozen that I shot myself of me installing DCC into a locomotive. I've done them in N scale and HO scale. There's at least 2 videos or video topics on garden scale locomotives, installing DCC into a garden scale. So there you go. Just search this channel and you'll find plenty of videos, Noel McCarthy, on how to do that. It's not something I could sit here and, well, here, I'll tell you how to install a DCC decoder into a locomotive. Then I'm going to go, because it has been damn near close to 2 hours right now. We're seconds away. So to install a DCC decoder into a locomotive, you take the shell off, figure out if it's DCC ready, I'll just go DCC ready with an 8-pin connector. That way we'll make it nice and easy. You take the connector that's on the DCC decoder, plug it into the 8-pin connector, tape it down someplace, and now you've just put DCC into your locomotive. There we go. I don't know what you have, Noel, so I can't speak specifically to whatever project you have. My best advice would be to get a locomotive from a manufacturer that has an NNRY compliant DCC plug and just use a plug and play decoder. It's just that simple. You take apart the locomotive, plug it in, make sure it's in the right direction, and there's usually instructions for that. Plug it in, tape down the decoder someplace in the locomotive, and you're done. It should be that easy. Maybe you just have a project that's a little too challenging for you at the moment, but you can use a 21-pin plug also. That works well. It's really not that hard. You just have to do a little bit of reading or maybe watch a few videos about it. So Hamilton's asking about the Wi-Fi chips. I'm assuming you're talking about the LocoFi install that I did recently on the Kato-9. That was a hardwire install. It would be really cool if there were some way for LocoFi to come up with a pluggable one that just uses an 8-pin plug. But my understanding of the LocoFi, I'll call it a decoder. It's really a module, but my understanding of that module as it is currently, I don't think that the actual structure of it, the architecture electronically, the way it's wired, I don't think that you can plug it into a standard plug right now. It would require some modification of the architecture, the internal architecture of the module, in order to be able to do it as a plug and play, like an 8-pin. But I think that would be a very smart thing for them to do. Making it NNRY compliant with the NNRY plugs would make those things a lot quicker and easier to install. That's for sure. And it could use the light board or whatever it is that comes with a plug and play model. You could just utilize that for all kinds of stuff. So I agree with you, Shane. Making it NNRY compliant would be a huge boon for them. And I've talked to the person who develops, and basically he's my contact with that company. I do think that would be a smart idea for them. And I've talked to him about that. I think it would be really smart. And one of the neat things about talking to someone who's in the process of developing these things is, because you know what it goes back to? It goes back to what I was talking about earlier about knowing enough to ask the right questions. I know enough to tell him what those questions are. And because I don't know that he really, or maybe he just, well, I don't know. Super cool guy, by the way. His name is Piyush. I saw him recently at the train show last month when I went. And I think that he knows more about modeling than he lets on when we talk, because he says stuff sometimes that's like, oh, and I say, oh, I didn't, in my head, I think, oh, I didn't realize that your depth of understanding was that complete. Now it's more technical stuff, and he knows a lot of stuff technically that I don't know, but I know enough about modeling and about what people look for, modelers specifically, to give him great information, right? About what to look for and which things would make that product, the LocoFi module, more interesting or more, what's the word for it? Marketable, I guess, to people that do all this DCC running and stuff like that. And we've had discussions about that. And every comment that I've made to him about possible improvements, he said that's on the list. You know, for example, consisting. Consisting was the very first thing I thought of when I was introduced to that product. I'm like, well, this is really cool. But I thought, I don't think I would use it because I like to consist my locomotives and I can't with that product. Well, guess what? That was one of the first things he said was on his list, to add a consisting feature to the software, right? Because it uses that app on the phone. So it's a very intriguing concept and a very interesting, as a matter of fact, you can see this right here. That's the Kato locomotive that I put the Loco-Fi module into. It's in that box right there. Anyway, yeah, I've been going more than 2 hours. I got to stop this now because I'm going to get hoarse and I've got way too much other stuff that I need to do today. It's unfortunate because the audience is higher now than it's been the whole time I've been talking. So last, I'm not going to look at chat anymore. So let me just make that smaller so I can't see it. I want to thank everybody who has taken the time to chat, to watch this 2 hours. I think this might be the longest live webcast I've ever done now. Thanks to everybody who took the time and spent the morning with me here. It's morning where I am for another 20 minutes. Thank you for watching today and for the entire rest of the year or years that you've been watching. I know a lot of the people that have watched today have been watching for years and commenting. Without you guys, I wouldn't even be doing this, because your feedback and your appreciation for what I do is really, I think, what keeps me going. And it's been really great to have you over the years. I will do one more post of the Steam special that came out this morning in the chat window. There it is. And I just want to thank you guys, because you make what I do a lot more enjoyable. I do enjoy the process, and I love video production. It's really my passion in life and what I want to do. I would ask you if there's any way that you can part with $2 or $5 or $10 a month to become a patron on the Patreon page. That's www.patreon.com/TSG multimedia. That is, I think, going to be the key to being able to continue to do this. I can't do it indefinitely unless I can get, the cash flow to pay for it, because it costs money to take trips and to pay bills, right? To pay the mortgage, whatever. And if that grows enough, it will ensure that I can continue to do this basically indefinitely, which is what I would really like to do. So thank you. And know that by contributing, you're also contributing to the expansion and promotion and bringing new people and more people into the hobby who happen to run across the videos and say, oh, well, this is kind of cool. I'd like to do this too. That's really the goal here. And with your help, I make it happen. So if you can, please contribute to the Patreon subscription or patron, whatever you call it. That's going to be the most important thing that will help me continue to do this. If you can't, it's okay. But then in that case, all I ask is that you go on Facebook and share the videos with your Facebook groups if you can. Share it with your friends in person. Comment in the comment section. If you see a live webcast like this, come and talk and make it happen. I mean, look, I honestly had no plans to go for 2 hours today, let alone 2 hours and 10 minutes, which is what this has ended up being. And I am getting hoarse now. Thanks for all the support over the years for 2018. Thanks, right, to all those people I mentioned and everybody else that I forgot to mention. If I keep going, I'll think of everybody, but it'll take me all day because my memory sucks. And, I'm looking forward to 2019 and what that's going to bring. I already have some plans. You'll hear more about them in the podcast a week from today. But thank you. And hey, Happy New Year. I'm not going to see most of you till next year. So Happy New Year to you. Be safe out there. And let's make 2019 even better. Yeah, I'll talk to you all later. Thanks again. And what else can I say? It's been great. And yeah, Happy New Year.